The students have started joining. Till now, 44 have joined, right? So here you can see the number. The number will come here also. Just wait.
यहाँ कहाँ दिख रहा है?
यहाँ नहीं दिख रहा है. Here it will come. $121. Right here in comments they can ask. Yes, welcome to the third session of the day of course BESC 131 Open and Distance Education. Actually, this session was initially scheduled as first session, but due to some internal arrangements, we shifted it as third session. In this session, the students who have opted for the course BES 131 Open and Distance Education, they will be facilitated by the course coordinator of the course, Dr. M.B. Lakshmi Reddy. The sir will talk about various issues related to the course, as well as he will talk about the activities which you need to perform during the session. So I welcome Dr. Lakshmi Reddy. Listen to the sound is coming properly. Education, they will be facilitated by the. So, sir will start the session after 4 or 5 minutes. So, I request sir that till that time he can, talk and brief about the course and all that, and then he will start his presentation.
Dear learners and other resource persons at different program study centers and study centers, and also the staff of regional centers who are involved in this program, good afternoon to you all, and I welcome you to this session on BESC 131 Open and Distance Education Selected Activities. As you all know, this is an optional course in the second year of B.Ed program. Now you are attending the second. Shall I continue? Stop. It's not going, huh?
Let me check. It's going.
Break is there now. Discontinue. Shall I start from beginning? Shall I start from the beginning?
So just wait for 2 minutes. Yeah, you can start now. No, not beginning. You can start now. Now it's coming.
Okay. Dear learners, I welcome you all to this session on BESC 131 Open and Distance Education Selected Activities. As you know, this is an optional course in second year of B.Ed program, and you are attending this second workshop as a part of your program. So in this course, there are 4 specific activities which you are expected to perform. These activities, in fact, have been designed in such a manner you will be getting exposure to different aspects of this open and distance education course with a specific reference to understanding the concept of open and distance education. Here, you will have critical understanding of the concept of open and distance education. And second activity is performing a transforming a lesson from a class textbook or a chapter from a book into an SLPM unit. Third is identifying the features of any one Web2 tool useful for teaching learning purpose and using a rubric for its assessment. Sharing of crucial problems experienced by you related to pursuing the program is the fourth activity which you will be performing in this session. Now, coming to the first activity, that is understanding the concept of open and distance education. Before we go or proceed further related to this activity, I want to ask you one simple question, that is whether you are a formal learner, non-formal learner, informal learner, correspondence learner, distance learner, or open learner, or any other learner. You may have your answer, and you may say that you are this particular type of learner. Then it must have its basis when you say some answer. That is the reason why you need to have the clarity about these concepts or the terms that you use in your conversation related to open and distance education related matters. So that is the reason why the objectives of this particular activity are to enable you to distinguish between the following pairs of terms or sets of terms or concepts, that is deschooling and non-formal education, correspondence education and distance education and open education, distance learning and distance education, open learning and open education, open and distance learning and open and distance education, lifelong learning and lifelong education. And it also is intended to enable you to understand the above terms in their evolutionary, philosophical, and integral perspective. Now, these terms are all related to open and distance education. Unless and until you have clarity on these terms, you will not be in a position to articulate or engage in academic discussion or a debate on issues related to open and distance education. Now, these terms here are divided into deschooling, formal, non-formal or informal education, correspondence education, distance education, open education, lifelong education, then formal, non-formal and informal learning, distance learning, open learning, or lifelong learning. So you need to have clarity about these concepts, and this session will provide you the experience of how you will be understanding these concepts with critical appreciation of their specific connotations in the given context in which these terms are used. For this purpose, you need to understand first of all what formal education system is. We all are from the formal system inevitably. We all have experience in doing certain courses, and we are all here only after completing our education to particular level through formal education. What is a formal education? You simply talk of formal education, but when it comes to the definition or articulation of this concept, it has its features. For example, this formal education can be defined as the hierarchically structured, chronologically graded education system running from primary school through the university, and including, in addition to general academic studies, a variety of specialized programs and institutions for full-time professional education and training. Here, hierarchically structured, it means there is a hierarchy running from primary to higher education level. So in between there are various stages. So that is the hierarchy. Then it is chronologically graded. For example, first class, second class, third class, fourth class, which we talk, first standard, second standard, third standard, like that. So it is like that, chronologically graded. So once the students complete 1 year, this is the grade. Accordingly, second year, this is another. That's how it has been chronologically graded system. And all these schooling at different levels, whether it is primary, secondary, senior secondary or intermediate education or higher education, all these have specific structures. That means institutions are established at a different levels in such a hierarchy. That is the reason why this is a hierarchically structured thing, and it is a chronologically graded also. That is the reason why this formal education has a rather full-time offerings of education or training, and the students who pursue education through this system, they are bound to follow certain formalities, right from the admission stage to attending the classes, performing certain activities, and appearing in the examinations. And once the duration of the program is over, then that is a rigid thing, and students will not have chance to continue in that thing by having a flexibility in that program. So that is not at all possible as far as this continuation with flexibility is concerned in the formal education system. It means you understand that there are so many formalities involved right from the stage of admission through participation in teaching learning activities to completion of any particular level of study as far as that particular system is concerned. So here the formalities you must not forget. That is why it is called formal education. Now we come to non-formal education. Non-formal education, in fact, is organized outside the educational system. So it is no doubt an organized educational activity, but outside the established formal system, and it is intended to serve the identifiable learning clientele and learning objectives. The moment we talk of, for example, formal schooling, that is primary education, we can immediately understand that, okay, this is up to fifth standard, that is from class 1 to class fifth. But in case of non-formal education, it is not like that. So non-formal education means immediately doubt will come. It is for which clientele, which learner groups. So what are the learning objectives? Etc. For example, if you compare this thing with formal education, first standard means they are expected to do certain specified activities in terms of reading, writing, and arithmetics, unless and until they achieve that particular standard or the level of accomplishment, they cannot be called as the successful completers of that particular grade. Here, in this case, there is no such a rigidity, and this can be organized anywhere for any type of learners, and it is actually free from time and space limitations, and it offers a set of learning experiences that have great relevance to the identified learner clientele, and by doing these specified activities, they will be achieving the specified learning objectives. Here, what you need to understand is this system, that is non-formal education system, is a divide of certain time and space constraints are the limitations, and these restrictions are not there. That is why it is called non-formal education. Now, coming to informal education, see whether we have pursued any formal education through formal educational system, or whether we have done something through non-formal education or not. Certainly every individual is having the experience of having acquired education through informal activities. That is the reason why it is called informal education. And the first and foremost institution of informal education is our home, where we will be beginning our educational endeavor at home through our parents and our siblings. So that is the reason why this non-formal, this informal education is truly the lifelong process whereby every individual acquires attitudes, values, skills, and knowledge from daily experience, and also the educative influences and resources available in his or her environment, from family and neighbors, from work and play, and from marketplace, the library, and the mass media. That is the reason why this informal education takes a larger share in our life in providing educative experiences, because even in the formal system, whatever we do other than what we will be doing within the classroom while teaching, that is called or that becomes part of our informal education, informal learning. That is the reason why this informal education assumes a major role, and it can happen everywhere or anywhere where we are not involved in any formal activities. Then coming to deschooling. What is this deschooling? Because unless and until you have understood these concepts of formal education, non-formal education, informal education, you will not be in a position to understand deschooling. Because deschooling talks of freeing education from all these structured systems or the formalities, etc., that are to be followed, whether it is in formal system or in a non-formal system. So the advocate of this deschooling was Ivan Illich, and he wanted to bring entire schooling or educational process outside the confines of the formal structures or the non-formal structures, because every individual in the society is entitled for education, and it should not be confined to particular place or time. That is the reason why this rigidities such as one point entry or single point admission, definite classroom at a definite time and place, and with a definite syllabus, rigid teaching learning activities, examinations, and so on and so forth. These things are rather causing hindrances to the progress of the society, and also there are many issues involved in terms of fees, which are in huge amounts. They are starting from even nursery to higher education levels. As you move up, you have to sell out a lot from your pockets, or parents have to sell out. So these are all the hindrances that have been coming in the way, and the most important thing is these systems, formal systems, have been manipulated at various levels, and whatever these systems formulate, they have to be followed by all the clientele group. There is no option. And for example, these formal structures have also their restrictions as far as admissions etc are concerned. For example, if you have not completed primary education, you are not eligible to seek admission into sixth standard. So this restriction is there. It means unless and until you have received some certificate that you have achieved or performed this particular thing, and this is the proof that you have, you will not be considered for admission, or you will not be treated as eligible for admission into particular program or course. Similarly, if you go to the job market, this is the requirement, and that requirement is assessed only through the certificates, not through the competence of the people. Or if somebody goes to any job and says that yes, I have these experiences, you consider me for this job. No, where is the certificate? Where is the proof that you have these competencies? That is the reason why entire society must be uh, exposed to these learning experiences. That is what the deschooling says. Because, for example, the students who are going to the formal system, students who are going to the non-formal system, and the people who are involved in teaching them and assessing them, etc., they only are becoming the privileged people, and they are setting the norms for the employment, and many other things are for their progress and development. Why entire society should not learn? Where are the spaces for them to learn? So why it should be restricted to these structures only? So let the entire society learn from all the places at all the times, so that their learning also becomes meaningful. Because, for example, laborers are there, they are working, but they don't have time to attend these conventional systems or even non-formal systems, and they don't have ability to afford in terms of payments, etc. So let the education be there also, and let certification or anything may happen or not happen. Let their learning be recognized and let they be considered for any kind of job, etc. For example, vocational education is there, a carpenter is there, a carpenter's son or other relative may become a carpenter because he grooms those people, he trains them at a very step, and they become the perfect carpenters. But if there is some formal position with required certification, then they will not be eligible to even apply for that. But if somebody has done something from any formal institution, they possess certificate, even if their competencies are at a level lower than what this people who have informally acquired their skills under the training of their parents or siblings, they are not eligible for getting the employment, because these are prescribed by the elitist group, and at every stage, starting from the schooling at different levels to collegiate education and higher education, these restrictions have been imposed, and often the people with good qualification, good competencies, but without the certifications, they may be deprived of these things. So these all problems have been seen. That's why this deschooling concept has been proposed by Ivan Illich. But of course, everything is not possible for implementation. But at the same time, the philosophy that underlines deschooling is that education should take place at all places for everyone and all through their lives, and that must be recognized and that must be considered for their progress and development. So now you have understood the concepts of formal education, non-formal education, informal education, and deschooling. Now we will proceed further to these things, correspondence education. Why, first of all, these concepts have started rather, taking their position like this existing positions, places, because there have been social problems where by the needy people could not get access to education, or even if there is access, they may not be having access to quality education, and they may not be successfully completing any particular thing. That is the reason why, in order to enhance access, this correspondence education has come into existence. And I do not know whether any one of you have done correspondence education or not. This correspondence education involves sending of the materials in batches to the student through post, and along with that material there will be certain assignments which have to be completed by the students, and which will be sent to the institution for assessment, and which will be done by the appointed tutor. And tutor will give the grade and also give the feedback to the students, and also general guidance for further improvement. So this is the correspondence education. But some people used to say that it will not have a face-to-face contact. But in practice, when I did rather correspondence education program, I did my M.Ed through correspondence education from Madurai Kamaraj University. That time, in fact, there used to be contact programs where people have to attend for a prescribed time. It could be sometimes 10 days, sometimes 15 days, like that. So there used to be contact programs. Now let us proceed further. That is distance education. Here, the difference between correspondence education and distance education, you need to understand. There also print material is sent by post. Here also print material is sent by post, but that alone is not the element in distance education. Here there will be supplementary programs through audio, video, radio, television, telephone, the computers, face-to-face counseling, etc. Now it is online. We are interacting or transacting our agenda. So that is a set. There is a set of instructional media that are followed in distance education. This is the major difference you will notice between correspondence education and distance education. Another important thing is, for example, I told you about the correspondence education, wherein I attended contact programs for 2 times. But it can happen at any place because they select any institution which is readily available to provide the agreed facilities. There they will be conducting. Whereas in case of distance education system, there is organized structure like regional centers and study centers are there, and students can go there for any instructional purpose, and they will get the support services on a regular basis, means periodically at the weekends at least can go and receive whatever the support that is required. So this is the difference between correspondence education and distance education. Now then, what is a open and distance education? As the very term indicates, you can understand it is a combination of open education and distance education. As I told you now, distance education is a following multimedia approach. Many media are followed, so it is a modality, in fact, distance education, and it permits learners to learn from their own places of living or work, but at the same time, they will learn uh, uh, different things at their own pace. Whenever they find time, they can do it. If they want to do it slowly, they can do it. They want to do it quickly or fastly, they can do it. That they will do using all possible technologies available and accessible to them. Perhaps in distance education, there are options available and it provides openness, but this openness you cannot consider as absolute, because even distance education also has its formalities. I mean to say, you all have appeared in entrance test, and entrance test was conducted by institution at particular time on particular date, and you all have cleared, and only successful students have been admitted to this. But this is a formality just for the sake of admission. Rest of the things are there. You have submitted fees, you receive materials, you submit the assignment, then you perform other activities related to your practical courses, etc. Then only you will be in a position to complete your program. So here also you find this restrictions. For example, if for the sake of rather for the namesake, it is an open university. It doesn't mean that it offers absolute openness to all the students, because it is bound to follow certain things given the agenda it has before it, as given by the nation. So here the openness means the degree of openness only you have to consider. For example, exams are there. University conducts exams. It conducts 2 times. If it has been 1 time only, then people have to wait for 2 times. To that extent, there is a flexibility, and at the same time, material you are getting, study material, printed form, and if you are elsewhere and you have not taken any printed book with you, and if you want to read it, and e-gyan course is there, and yeah, e-text material you can read, and that is avoiding the problems related to particular place of reading. At other place you are able to access, but using other technology. So that is how you will be adjusting your pace of learning. To that extent, it is providing the openness. Now you will be having clarity about this open and distance education. For example, if the distance education is rather open to a greater extent, then you can call it as a open and distance education. Because distance education need not be always open. For example, now we conducted examination one time. Even similarly, admission also we have conducted only one time. Like that, we will have very rigid delivery of our programs. Then that openness or extent of openness is minimized. In such a case, distance you cannot call distance education as a open distance education. So it is like any other conventional system where you have to attend the rather participate in the prescribed activities at prescribed times. See, for example, in a conventional system, one important thing you can notice is whether anything is assessed properly or not. At least the attendance can be accurately assessed, and it can be assessed to the fraction 61%, 61%, something like that. Whereas in distance education, that attendance part is completely done away with. To that extent, I can say that it is a open and distance education. So you are free to read anytime because the teacher is inbuilt into the material, and you can listen, rather, go through the material wherein you feel that the teacher is really teaching you at any point of time. Now this is about open and distance education. And lifelong education is in fact a process that begins in childhood and continues throughout one's life. It includes formal, non-formal, and informal education received by the individual. Here, whatever we have been acquiring all through is all lifelong education. I did my courses through conventional system, correspondence education, and also I did two courses from IGNOU also. Like that, whatever I have acquired from all these formal and non-formal systems, in addition to what I acquired through informal process, this all fall under lifelong education. Now, when you look at this distance and open learning, having understood this open and distance education, see difference between education and this simple learning is education means there is a teaching and learning involved with assessment. Whereas in case of learning, it need not be learning that is to be certified. So learning take place. Here, distance learning, it means it is organized at a distance, rather dispensed at a distance, and it is acquired from a distance. We are here, we are organizing or dispensing education from a distance. You are at a distance place, and you are all receiving this education. So, this learning is taking place from a distance, and also similarly teaching is taking place at a distance. So even if teaching is not there, for example, somebody has organized it at different point of time and you are learning it at different point of time, so there is a learning taking place. Similarly, open learning, as I was telling you, this distance education is open as far as your study is concerned. It refers to simply the set of arrangements that enable the people to learn at the time, place, and the space that is convenient to their circumstances or requirements, and also through the technology that they are able to afford and access. And the emphasis is on opening up of opportunities by overcoming barriers that result from geographical isolation, personal work commitments, or conventional course structures. So, if the barriers to learning and also access to resources are there without any hindrance, then it becomes a open learning. Now you got the clarity about this open learning and distance learning. And I asked you a question whether you are formal, non-formal, or informal learner, etc. You must have rather proposed your response. Given your response, now you see what kind of learner you are in the light of what all has been discussed now. Next, for your clarity, I am here giving you the examples whereby I have compared two pairs of concepts only, because in this activity there are many other pairs that have been given just to demonstrate, so as to facilitate rather completion of this task by you with reference to other pairs of terms. You now can look at these examples. For example, I have taken these two concepts. So one is deschooling and non-formal education. So what are the key elements or the features in these two concepts? If there are common things, then you will find them existing in both the kinds. For example, education happens everywhere. That is the philosophy where deschooling proposes. Similarly, non-formal education, formalities may be there in the sense, okay, we will conduct it, but at any place, not particular place. So you either you come here or there means there is a kind of openness. Formalities are not there. So that is how this deschooling and non-formal education will have these common features. So key elements. Here philosophy is common. It means this deschooling has those specific features, that is it happens everywhere, anywhere, and no organizational system is required, no formalities are required. Similarly, key elements of non-formal education are it is organized but outside the formal system, but at the same time these formalities are relaxed or minimized or made flexible. So these key elements are there, but if you compare them, you will cull out the common features. What are the common features? It is the philosophy. Basic philosophy is that education must be extended to the larger sections of the needy people. That is the reason why philosophy of both deschooling and non-formal education are common. Similarly, rigid structures are not there, and flexibility is brought in. Now, coming to the main difference, what are the differences? As far as the deschooling is concerned, it is completely free from any artificial structures. Let it take place at all the places where the people are living and working. So, let it become a part of their life itself. So, now no formalities are there as far as deschooling is concerned. Whereas in case of non-formal education, there will be certain formalities. It doesn't mean that there will not be any formalities at all, but only relaxed formalities are there. These relaxations are in terms of time, space, structures, and certain other things. Similarly, correspondence education. I highlighted that it is done through printed material, and it is done through a postal thing, mail. So delivery of material is done through postal service. As far as distance education, I told you it follows multimedia approach. Many media are followed, not only the printed material, and modes of delivery are many. So these are all the specific features of correspondence education and distance education. Now, what are the common features that you will notice? In both the things, printed material is a common thing. Though other media are used in distance education. Assignments are there. Even in correspondence education, students have to perform the assignments and submit them for assessment. And there also feedback is there. Even in distance education also, students will receive feedback on their assignments. Similarly, evaluation is there. Only after evaluation, certification is done. These are the common features. But what are the main differences? The differences I have already highlighted. It is in case of correspondence education, it is only through printed materials, and delivery is also done through only one service, that is postal service. Whereas in the case of distance education, multiple instructional media are followed. And another important difference between the correspondence and distance education is distance education system has well established student support services system. Now, with this understanding, you need to complete this particular activity, and the specified format is given in the course material, which you must have used, because as a part of pre-workshop activity, you are all supposed to come with your filled in forms. By filling like this, I have to pairs of concepts I compared, and I hope you all must have done this. Those students who are opted for this open and distance education must have filled this particular form in the with reference to the rest of the pairs of the concepts. What you need to do is, you can share this thing with your own colleagues, so that they will give feedback on your thing, and at the same time you also will be giving feedback to others. So now, with this thing, we will proceed to the other activity. Next activity is transforming a lesson from a class textbook or a chapter from a book into an SLPM unit. Here, I would like to ask you one question. You have gone through the study material of this open and distance education course. Now, with this workshop, and after giving your term and examination, you will be a bachelor degree holder in education, and you are considered to be an expert. But if you are asked at this stage by anyone, can you write a unit for any distance education course of any particular program to be offered through open and distance education mode? Are you able to do it, and are you confident of it? Can you say that yes, I can do it? Here, this activity is actually intended to enable you to do that particular thing. So it will enable you to understand and experience the process of preparation of self-learning print material, and acquire the skills of preparing an SLPM unit. Here you can do it in two ways. For example, this is the transforming of the lesson. But if you are asked to write a unit, you have to do it as per the prescribed format, and also by covering the given themes. Here we want to involve you in a rather slightly difficult task, so that you will acquire better skills, because it is not prescribed by the university, and you will be confining to that particular structure or the themes. Like for example, before you participated in this activity, you must have already identified a particular chapter, from which you must have taken a photocopy of this thing, or from a particular class textbook covering particular lesson, which you must have taken a photocopy of it. Now, what you should be doing is, there are certain steps which you need to follow if you want to, or if you have to transform a lesson or the chapter into a self learning material or self learning printed material. These steps are, now you go through this photocopy of the lesson, which you must have taken. It may be of the class textbook or a chapter from any book. Read the lesson or the chapter thoroughly, with a view to identify different themes and sub themes. You must have read it, but that time you must not have attempted to identify the themes, or if you have attempted and identified themes and sub themes, that is well and good. Now, what you have to do, having identified different themes and sub themes, you have to organize them as a part of third step. That is, you must do the concept mapping. Which theme should come first, which theme should come in the second order, and which theme should be in the third order, so that there is a proper sequence of themes, and also sub themes under each of the themes. That is the third step you will be doing. After having done that thing, you need to decide the format of the self-learning material and prepare the structure of a self-learning material, so that you will be in a position to transform the particular lesson or the particular chapter into a self-learning material, which is actually essential characteristic of a distance education system. It is an essential element of instructional strategy. Without self-learning material or self-learning printed material, for that matter, as far as IGNOU is concerned, this teaching through rather teaching from distance will not happen at all. So you be clear about what format I want to follow in the material. If you have read the relevant unit in block 2, you would have noticed even the two formats, one related to IGNOU and another related to UK Open University, or you can evolve your own format if that will be more meaningful. Not necessary that IGNOU format should be topmost or UK University format should be topmost. No, I do not agree with that thing. You are all in practice. You have your intelligence and you can apply. You can bring in always improvement in this thing. So you can have your own transformed or improved version of any format. So for doing this thing, you identify the structure in which you wanted to put, then start transforming the contents. Here, for example, if the chapter is there, as per the identified themes, you can cut the photocopy of that material into different pieces and you organize them according to the identified themes. So you give a proper heading and for the theme you can give the numbering. Then within that sub theme you will give numbering accordingly. Then you will be putting all those cut material in a transformed order. Then you will be putting the linkages between the different themes. For example, if it is a chapter from a book, it will not be there in the way you expected, and it will not be in the personalized style of presentation in simple terminology, etc. You have to transform it into simple and easily understandable text presented in a rather than attractive and simplified manner. Here, for example, for your sake, I will make you to recall the two structures, not those of IGNOU and UK Open University. Here, I wanted to facilitate how you can go ahead with, for example, preparing unit structure. You will see here, this is the structure. If it is the first unit of any particular material, that X here under introduction, you will put it as for example, first unit means 10, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, like that. Or if it is some third one, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, like that, it will continue. So whatever the themes you have identified, you will be putting your first theme under the main topic. Then accordingly, you will be putting the other themes in a sequence. Then once you have put this structure, then comes the writing part. You will start your writing from below the unit structure, and you will be beginning with the unit introduction below the unit structure. Then in the introduction, you will be covering what are all being dealt with in this unit. Then you will be giving them some guidance as to how they can go about reading of the unit, etc. Like that, you will give the objectives also after this thing, after introduction. Then main body will be there, and in the main body you will rather elaborate all the main themes in a personalized style, and you must arrange the presentation also in a logical order, covering all the learning points, and wherever necessary you will be incorporating the illustrations, and don't forget to incorporate assessment at the end of every theme. So I need some more time. Then this is the thing. Now you take out your material and you perform this writing of this unit, which is a transformed version of the photocopy. Now, coming to the third activity, that is identifying the features of any one Web2 tool. Web 2.0 tool useful for teaching learning purpose and using a rubric for its assignment. Here, we wanted to give you exposure to rather non-print media, how you can use it for teaching learning purpose. There you will be learning rather than teaching of teaching through print material. Here you will be having a exposure to doing it through non-print media or the electronic media. Here you will be exploring key features of any one selected Web 2.0 tool of your choice, and I must have identified the specific features of it, and must have even applied the rubric for assessment of the tool. Because as a part of pre-workshop activity, you have been already asked to explore these key features of the selected tool, and you must have explored any one particular thing and identified those features which are useful for teaching learning purpose, and you must have even kept it readily with you. Now, before you do this thing, you need to have clarity about this website. Earlier websites were simply for passive viewing of the content only. Now Web 2.0 sites which we are now using, these are all highly embedded website with interactive technology, and allows users to interact and collaborate with each other, and now it has become a popular thing. So this will be useful to you if you have done it, and there are various applications that are available, because you can use various formats. For example, social bookmarking is there, which is a web-based resource, and you can use it. Blogs are there, and wikis are there. Blogs are, rather individually authored, owned, and managed. Wikis, it can be done as a group exercise, and it can be done even for publishing of the books. And social networking systems are now rather more popular, which incorporates all these things. So through the this social networking system, you can create online content and share it, because this social content applications like audio, graphic, and video files, etc., can be done using Podomac, Flickr, or YouTube, and mashup applications is there which can be used to integrate it. Synchronous communication technologies are there, which are useful for interaction with video facility, like Skype and Adobe Connect and Zoom, and many other things are available nowadays, and you can use any one of these things, whichever you must have selected, and these are all useful for teaching learning purposes, and you need to identify which are those specific features which are available in other things. Then virtual world applications are there, like Second Life. It provides you rather experience of real life, and you can use these things also, but it requires high degree of competence or high level of competence. Now you can use this format which is already given, and you must share it with your colleagues, so that they will also share their experiences, and you will get enriched with the others applications which they have done. Now I have done one particular thing as far as using of Facebook is concerned. Here, if go to Facebook, for example, you can access one particular thing. There you will see. Anyway, now it is a. I have created one private group which you can see. For example, here. So this is accessible only for the private group. There are only 17 members. It is meant for only students of postgraduate certificate in adult education. Only distance teachers and students are involved. And here, the discussion and other things can take place. So latest information I can post, and other feedback also I will get from the students. Like that, this activity I propose, or rather, use it only for postgraduate certificate in adult education students. Similarly, you can use it for your own purpose, like creating any particular learning experience through use of any other rather Web 2.0 tool. Now you have to perform the last activity also as a part of this course, and this is about sharing of your crucial problems and experiences related to pursuing of the B.Ed program. You have been the student of IGNOU, and you must have experienced so many problems also, and you must have resolved them also. So you share your experiences with special reference to the key issues of the B.Ed program from IGNOU, and identify the gaps between the policy and practice related to implementation of the B.Ed program, and also identify the factors affecting your continuation in a B.Ed program, and seek suggestions and feedback for resolving the issues for your better progress in the B.Ed program. So this is all useful to you if you can share with your colleagues, and share their experiences, how they could resolve their own issues, and that will be a rather great step for you to improve through your program which you have to complete now. So thank you very much. There was video problem or what? I was getting some problem in video.